I guarantee you, you can't find any government, developing or developed country in the world, on this planet, Madam Speaker, that would have doubled taxes in 5 years. Let me repeat that. You cannot find any country in this world, Madam Speaker, on this planet, in which the government would have doubled taxation, tax revenues in 5 years. And it happened here in this country. And Madam Speaker, they introduced ABST. We have the connections to bring more investments to this country. And this country cannot thrive without investments. They have no connections, they're green, they're inexperienced, Madam Speaker. All they do is just travel to meetings and just burn up our country's scarce resources and travel expenses. You ever hear that they'd have been anywhere and bring back anything of note? They come back with 2 buses when they don't spend millions of dollars traveling the globe. We will bring real investment dollars to this country. And that in itself, Madam Speaker, will result in significant organic revenue growth without introducing new taxes, by bringing more investment dollars to this country. And let me also state here to you, Madam Speaker, by doing away with the personal income tax, by eliminating the personal income tax, obviously, Madam Speaker, our people will have greater disposable incomes. It will increase the circulation of money. It will also increase the taxes. So the net loss of repealing the personal income tax in its entirety is not 55 billion. In fact, I guarantee you, Madam Speaker, that based on the velocity of circulation, that we'll probably get an additional $20 million in taxes from that 55 million. So that the net loss of repealing it may be in the region of about $35 million. And in addition to that, we are saying to the nation that we will control expenditure. We have shown the Honourable Member of Rural East and the members of the UPP, as well as the nation, at least the last budget, and we've done so in other forums, that we could reduce certain expenses. And I want to reiterate these items of expenditure. Vehicle expenses, miscellaneous expenses, travel, consultancy fees, subscriptions and contributions, investigative fees, food and beverage. Madam Speaker, the $85 million that they're projecting this year, we can reduce those by 55 million, thereby mitigating the need to introduce any new tax measure. And Madam Speaker, there are other areas in which we could reduce expenditure. Transfer payments, Madam Speaker, actually moved from about $15 million to over $90 million projected for 2009. Now, there are 2 programs in that particular line item, namely the school uniform program, which costs the nation about $10 million, and the school uniform program, which is $3 million, and the food feeding program, which is $10 million. Those programs, Madam Speaker, we will retain. Let me just repeat again, because there's a lot of rhetoric, a lot of lies coming from the other side. Madam Speaker, the Antigua Labour Party will retain the school meals program and the school uniform program. It's a total of $13 million that they're spending on those 2 programs. Now, Madam Speaker, you know, they brag about those programs, but it's only $13 million. They were given $400 million more. So when you look at it in the scheme of things, in terms of what was given to the UPP government, it is insignificant. But what we will do, Madam Speaker, we will expand the school meals program, and we will expand the uniform program, Madam Speaker, to make sure that more students in this country benefit from those 2 initiatives. And I just hope that they'll stop the rhetoric, stop fooling the people of this country by telling them that the Antigua Labour Party plans to scrap the school meals program and the uniform program. It is not true. In fact, Madam Speaker, they won the last general elections on deceit. I recognize that they're coming here with the same deceit again. But it's not going to work this time. Rest assured, you fooled the people once, and they're not going to allow you to fool them again. Madam Speaker, today, notwithstanding all these taxes, the introduction of personal income tax, the ABST, which yielded more than $100 million more than what they anticipated. They said the ABST was going to be revenue neutral, and they got $100 million more in taxes. Madam Speaker, notwithstanding those, today you still have suppliers in this country who are not being paid on time. Today you still have late payments, Madam Speaker. I have constituents who have come to me and have said to me they have not been paid for 2 and 3 weeks. Public sector employees up to today are not being paid on time. But strange enough, nobody's saying anything about it. So the honourable member for Rollies can stand up in here and say, oh, public servants have been paid on time. There are people at Public Works today, Madam Speaker, who have not been paid on time. And in other government ministries who have not been paid on time. And Madam Speaker, even though they got $400 million more in revenues, they have had to borrow at least twice that I know about for emergency purposes in order to cover the wage bill. A year ago, Madam Speaker, they had to borrow $10 million from ABIB in order to cover salaries and wages. ABIB did not have the cash flow, and ABIB in turn had to go to the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank to borrow the money in order to help UPP to pay salaries and wages. They had to borrow monies from Finance and Development Corporation in order to pay salaries and wages. So I've asked the question before. Let me ask the question again. What has changed? And I want to make the point here that the country's financial position today is far more precarious than it was back in 2003. Madam Speaker, the country's debts, they are still substantial arrears. And the debt that was actually written off, Madam Speaker, from the Royal Antiguan sale offered by the Italian, the $38 million came from the Royal Antiguan sale. It didn't come from the Treasury. It didn't come directly from the Treasury or from tax revenues. So you can't even say that they're utilizing the tax revenues to pay debts. Yes, there's a write-off of nearly $500 million. They got it discounted to about $40-something million. And that money, Madam Speaker, came from the sale of Royal Antiguan. So you can't even argue that they're using taxpayers' monies to pay external debts, at least those that were incurred by the Antigua Labour Party. They have borrowed excessively, extensively, and yet still nothing has changed. And Madam Speaker, when you look at the debt per capita in this country, it has actually grown under the UPP. The debt per capita, Madam Speaker, on the ALP, according to the member for Rollies, was $40,000 per head. Today, it has grown to $45,000 per head. So again, I ask the question, with $400 million more in taxes, tell me what has changed in this country today. Tell me that all your loans are up to date. Tell me you've closed the fiscal gap, if it is true. And I know that it is not, so I guess you cannot say so. So in other words, Madam Speaker, the fiscal stabilization program has failed and has failed miserably. Every single thing, Madam Speaker, they have touched within the last 4 3/4 years have actually failed. They have no success on which to stand, and that is why they continue to get personal with members of the ALP and to try and lock up and to tear down, because they can't go to the nation and put up a proper scorecard. You look at the scorecard, Madam Speaker, they have nothing to boast about. I told you already that in the scheme of things, that the uniform program and the school meals program is insignificant. It's $400 million more they've got, Madam Speaker. And they're spending $13 million. $13 million, Madam Speaker, on those two programs. So on to the other, what's it? $387 million. What are you doing with it? And the talk about corruption, Madam Speaker. And let me say this, they used to accuse the Antigua Labour Party of corruption. But the irony about it, people are living better under the LP. Today, Madam Speaker, and this is so ironic, today under the UPP, with no corruption, with $400 million more in taxes, people are struggling, find it very, very hard to survive in this country. And the amount of people that have heard actually saying that if the UPP wins the next general elections, that it will migrate. I want to tell you, it will be a travesty, Madam Speaker, if the people of this country make the mistake and vote for the UPP again.